Lesson 59, genetic drift. We'll be able to describe the difference between genetic drift and natural selection. This is actually why my question this morning, what's important for natural selection? I picked that question because I wanted to remind you guys, to take you back to natural selection. I also want to remind you guys, and I think I told you guys this time, natural selection, and you know what, to be completely honest with you guys, this is actually what I used to think. Even before doing this topic, I used to think this: natural selection equals evolution. I was like, yep, those two things are the same. They're not. They're not the same. Natural selection is a type of evolution. Natural selection is a type of evolution. But there are other types of evolution. Artificial selection is another type of evolution. And what's a third type of evolution? Genetic drift. All of these are evolution. And if you think, well, what do you mean? Why are these evolutions? What does evolution mean? Evolution means gradual change over time. A technical term for it at the start of the year was start of this topic was gradual change in the heritable traits over time. But we can just take it as gradual change over time. The other advantage of referring to it as gradual change over time is because that's also what evolution means in colloquial context. If you talk about the evolution of the iPhone, I'm talking about how did the iPhone change slowly over time. Obviously, the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 3 didn't have a baby, and that iPhone baby was the iPhone 4S. That's not how it works. We're talking about how there's a slow change in development. You can talk about the evolution of the planet, like how we went from like molten rock to oceans to like Pangea. That's a slow change over time. You can even talk about the evolution of stars, so how a star is formed, gets bigger, dies, turns into a black hole or a white dwarf and stuff like that. So yeah. So that's what evolution is. So genetic drift is a type of evolution. It's a type of way that, things change slowly over time. So what we're going to talk about is the main thing is this: if both of these are forms of evolution, then how are they different? And if they are different, and the difference is subtle. Now, if you're not subtle, meaning that it's a small difference. And I actually think it's really good to talk about this difference now at the end of the topic rather than in the middle of the topic, where it might also make sense to talk about it. Because now that you guys have seen so much of natural selection, you guys should be able to say, oh yeah, I can see how this is a little bit different. But beware, it's not a lot different. It's not like, oh, it's just a little bit different. Okay, so let's go back. Last time I had you guys, by the way, heads up, we talked about anatomical structures. We talked about 3 types of anatomical structures: homologous, analogous, and vestigial. Homologous being it's the same structure, but it's in different animals, so it looks different. So an arm in a human is going to look different to an arm or a leg in a cat, but it's still got the same sort of basic structures. The bones are slightly different shapes. And the whale has even different, like instead of having long arms, a whale has very, very long fingers that it turns into a fin. Speaking of which, a bat has really long fingers as well, but it uses that to turn into a wing instead of like a fin. So all of these things are related, but because they've got the same basic structure, but They're different. We refer to this as divergent evolution. So what happens is that, you know, some kind of thing has, you know, evolves into two different things. One of them, the legs become all moved out, and so then it can use that as like to swim through the water. And the other one, of course, the legs get longer, and then yeah, the idea is the bad pictures aside, the idea is that it's divergent evolution because they separate, they change, and they get more and more and more different. That's what divergent evolution is. The opposite is true of analogous structures. Analogous structures, we talked about these, are structures that do the same job. They look more and more similar, even though they don't have a common ancestor. So the wing of a bird and the wing of an insect, or you could take the shell of a turtle and the shell of a crab. They have very different things, but they both still got shells. You could take the fin of the wing of the wing of a penguin, and the fin of a fish. They both perform the same job and help the animal swim through the water. So this is convergent evolution. Convergent evolution is always the idea for convergent evolution, in my opinion, is get the best tool for the job. So, you know, if you want to get a wing, then if your animal evolves a wing, then it's the wing is the best tool for the job. Okay, so then the last one we talked about was vestigial structures. Vestigial structures are structures that you have on your body that you don't need. So it's like, for example, we don't need to have an appendix. We don't need wisdom teeth. There are parts of our body that they're not useful to us. They used to be. So they're kind of like part of our evolutionary family history. It's like you can look and say, well, a long, long time ago, we used to have hair all over the body. That's why we get goosebumps. But of course, because they're not useful over time, they sort of disappear from our bodies and stuff like that. And I said, one of the examples, of course, is this massive whale which has a pelvic bone, even though it doesn't have any legs to need a pelvis. It's just got this random bone. You might think to yourself, why does it evolve? Why does it grow a bone in the first place? It's just like, well, that's just part of its DNA that's been left around. And then I got you guys to work on evidence of evolution, the worksheet. So today what we're going to talk about is going to talk about genetic drift, which is sort of not really related to that at all. So it's not even an extension. But we're going to go back to our idea of natural selection. Let's pop open natural selection. What is natural selection? So natural selection is made up of three main ideas. And I always talk about these three main ideas because I actually think it's the best way to talk about natural selection. Competition, variation, selection pressure. The reason that I am always plugging these three words to go along with natural selection is because if you are trying to write down an answer to a question on a test or an assignment, you should mention these words. The second you mention those words, like if I've got a 2-mark question, the second you mention one of these words correctly, I will give you a mark more often than not. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to say, yes, these are important words to know. All these words link to natural selection. Just like with the crab example, I've got why are those things important. The first one, selection pressure. Now we've already copied something like this down. If you're super confident with natural selection, when I say super confident, I mean like, yeah, I know natural selection easy. I don't need to write this down. Then you don't have to write it down. But for those of you that are like, oh, I've forgotten these words, I've forgotten how these relate, then this is just another reinforcement, if you will. The first one, selection or selection pressure. And I've tried to summarize this in as few words as possible because I know that there are students here that are like, oh, I don't want to write this down. These are new slides, yeah. So the first one is selection pressure, nature or the environment gives a challenge to survival. So I've tried to summarize this in as few words as possible because I've already spent a whole slide talking about selection pressure before. So it just gives them a challenge. I like that. I like this way of talking about it because it kind of makes it sound like you know, like the environment is like the nature or the environment is like the hosts of you know, some kind of reality TV show. Today's challenge is, can you survive can you avoid getting eaten by this lynx? It's like, oh my god, I'm going to get eaten by a predator. It's like, okay, you know, today's challenge is living in the Arctic where it gets to sub -10 degrees on most days of the year. You're like, oh no, well, it's a new challenge. It's like a new challenge, you know? Maybe even something like new challenge. This flower that you used to go into to get food is suddenly now got a smaller stem. What are you going to do? So there's always these selection pressures, these challenges that nature just hits you with. Okay. Now, if nature hits you with the challenge, you're going to have to find a solution to that challenge. You're going to have to find a way to get around that challenge. Obviously, when I say you have to find a way, it's obviously not going to be you. It's going to be maybe you're naturally born with the ability. Maybe, you know, you were born with slightly whiter fur than your brothers and sisters because of some random variation. And so that means you can blend into the snow easier and avoid getting eaten. Maybe you've grown slightly longer legs than your brothers and sisters, so therefore you can run faster and outrun them if a predator chases you. All of that is linked to variation, a second idea. Variation is the differences between organisms, which makes some better. Difference between organisms makes some better and some worse at dealing with the challenge. So yeah, let's just say that you and your brothers and sisters, you know, and we'll go with that example here. We've got a hungry, you know, some kind of hungry, I don't know, lion or lynx or something like that. Doesn't matter. And he's like, oh, I'm going to eat these animals. Look at that. It's just, you know, artistic as hell. Jeez, how did you get so good at drawing, Mr. Greer? Oh my god, I wish I could draw like you. No. So yeah, so it's hungry lynx, and it's going to chase after. It's going to chase after you and your brother and sister. Now you happen to randomly grow because of some random mutation, long legs. And what those long legs mean is that, guess what? You can run a lot faster than they can. So therefore, you're more likely to survive. Okay, and that's a random variation. You know, maybe one of your siblings is actually, you know, instead of having white fur, has black fur. But in this case, guess what? That variation is not going to help you outrun this lynx or lion or whatever. Now, in fact, when you're trying to outrun your brother and sister, that's actually an example of the third and final thing, competition. When the organisms compete to survive, the survivors pass on the successful gene. So after the lynx or the lion or whatever comes along and eats your brother and sister because, you know what, because they're too slow, they can't keep up. You're the only one of your family that survives. Guess what? You're going to have children, and those children are also going to have long legs. And that's going to mean that they're also better at you know, let's draw. Let's say that's you. That's the little ones. They're going to be, and they're going to be better at surviving too. So on and so forth, and that's going to continue on and on and on. After organisms compete to survive, the survivors pass on successful genes. I say successful genes, I guess it's a bit subjective there. I guess I sort of more mean, but I think it's the best description for it. But what I mean, I guess I sort of mean, you know, they pass on their genes that are, they pass on their the genes that they use to survive. So then they get added to the gene pool, whereas the genes for short legs don't get added to the gene pool because those people die before they can have children. So therefore, you're more likely to have longer leg animals, and that is how evolution works. It's based on natural selection, so a slow change over time because nature pushes it that way. But here's the question, right? This is stuff we've all done before. So what's new about this? This is natural selection, which makes changes, hence evolution. So this is evolution because you're getting changed over time. But I'm going to put a but here because we're going to actually now look at this in a different idea. But I'm speaking of buts. I'm actually going to keep this slide open for another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to change the slide. If you haven't got this copied down, don't worry. I will put this on YouTube at some point, but I'm going to give you a little bit longer. And of course, if you're really confident with natural selection, so you're choosing not to copy this down, yep, that's fine too. But even if that is you, I would suggest copying down this diagram because I think this diagram is just a useful way to remember that all of these things connect to make natural selection. Okay, let's go. So, what's genetic drift then? Okay, what is this new theory? What is genetic drift? Well, let's say this. What if there was no major selection pressure or all the organisms coped well? So if you think about it, instead of there being predators, maybe you're on an island where there's no predators. Maybe you're on an island where all the food is easily accessible. You know, there's no, like, you know, we're thinking about like a paradise sort of situation. So there's no real selection pressure. There's nothing forcing you to struggle to survive because maybe just you've survived long enough that you've coped with all of the challenges. So what if there's no selection pressure? Let's remove selection pressure. What if there's no need to compete? If there's no selection pressure, right? So there's no need to compete. That's the idea. If there's enough food for everyone, if there's no predators, you're not really competing with anyone. So it sort of removes competition. Now, this is not necessarily 100% true. There's always going to be something to compete about. Maybe it's like, oh, the animals that live the longest, to get the oldest, have the most children, so they're competing for how long you can live age-wise. There are some other competitions you can compete for. You can compete like, oh, maybe animals that are the most colorful are the ones that get to mate, so therefore that sort of pushes animals to be more colorful. But, you know, let's just pretend that there's not really anything major to compete for. The only thing that we're worrying about is variation. Variation is the only thing that can sort of exist. So you still get some random baby with long legs, some random child with black fur, some random tree that has pink flowers instead of white flowers, whatever. So there's still random changes over time. But can these random changes, random variation, can this lead to evolution? So random variations and random locations of organisms can lead to some genes becoming more popular. So even though there is absolutely no forms of there's no selection pressure, there's no competition, just by pure randomness, and I've said pure randomness, pure chance, just by pure chance, some organisms, some genes become more popular than others, based on absolutely nothing. Not based on, oh man, having, you know, black fur makes them more likely for this animal to survive. No, it's not based on that. It's just based on, hey, you know what? Turns out that black fur won the lottery today, so, you know, that's what happens. It's absolutely based on nothing. That's the idea for genetic drift. Genetic drift is variation, just random variation. So I'm going to keep this up here for a little bit longer. I'm going to keep this up for another 30 seconds or so, because pretty much this is it. We're up to the second. This is the second last slide. We're pretty much almost done. So the trick here for this is, and this is the thing that I'm going to really reinforce because I'm not going to keep saying it over and over and over again, is it's got to do with randomness. Okay. So whenever I talk about this, I'm not saying that, you know, when I'm talking about, oh, maybe this bird gets a blue color feathers. It's not getting blue colored feathers. It's not, and then maybe a bunch of other birds get blue colored feathers. That's not because blue colored feathers means they survive more, because there's no selection pressure or competition. They just get blue colored feathers because, you know, their parents have blue colored feathers, so they get blue colored feathers. Genetic drift is actually more closely related to what happens in humans, because obviously there isn't much competition to survive. You might say, well, what do you mean there's not? Well, it's like from nature. We're not, as human beings, we're not running away from animals that are trying to eat us. We don't need to worry too much about disease and stuff because we've got a lot of cures. We don't need to worry too much about, you know, hunting food because we've got supermarkets. So genetic drift is the only thing that's really governing a lot of stuff. And genetic drift sort of means that, you know, some humans got darker skin than other humans. Some humans got different shaped faces than other humans. And so genetic drift is just, it doesn't mean that that's going to necessarily mean, has nothing to do with natural selection. So it doesn't actually mean that that animal is more likely to survive. It's just like, oh, it's just random chance. It just means that that happens. And if you're someone that's got, if you're someone that's blonde and you have children with someone else that's blonde, then your child is going to be blonde as well, like have blonde hair as well. That variation is not going to mean, blonde hair doesn't mean that that person's going to survive longer and have more children. It just means it's just a, well, you know, it just turns out to be blonde. It's like a genetic drift. It's not got to do with natural selection. It's just got to do with randomness pretty much. Let me change the slide. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this word in the middle here with genetic drift. So genetic drift is like natural selection, except instead of dealing with, you know, competition, instead of dealing with competition and selection, all genetic drift cares about is variation. Genetic drift is the slow change of a population's genes over time due to random chance, not due to natural selection, not because it's the best gene for the job, not because it's, but because it's just randomness, just because it's like, you know what, why not? And guess what? This can lead to divergent evolution. This can lead to speciation. So you can actually get different species because of this, right? It's just, you know, randomly, it's just like, you know what, over time, all of these birds turned out to be, have red feathers, all of these birds turned out to have blue feathers. They turn into two different species, but, you know, it's not because of any pressure. It's not because like, oh, red feathers makes you survive. It's just, you know, random. What makes one gene, and that's is what makes one gene more popular is gene popular, is not to do with fitness, but random chance. As I said, I'm just repeating myself over and over and over again. I'm going to keep this up for about 30 seconds, and then I'm going to show you guys the activity that goes along with this. And then after that, I'm going to give you guys period 2 to work on the evolution worksheet that I gave you, and this new genetic drift worksheet. The genetic drift worksheet is not going to be due until like Friday next week. So you've got plenty of time to work on it, and I'll give you guys some time next week to work on it too. But I just want to start off, I want to show you guys what it is today so that, you know, if you do finish the evolution worksheet, you've got something to work on. So I'm going to keep this up for another, what, say 20 seconds. Now, there was a nice picture I found that actually went along with this. And I'm hoping that it gives you guys an idea of the same sort of thing about random chance. So here what we've got, and this picture is, you've got like some beetles, right? And you've got 5 red beetles and 5 blue beetles. Now, we haven't introduced anything that says, oh, it turns out that being blue means you're more likely to get eaten. It's just, you know, red is better to camouflage. It's just 5 random blue beetles. And then what happens is someone comes along with a fly swatter and swats and kills some of these beetles. How many do they kill? They kill 5 of the blue beetles. And so now there's only 1 blue beetle left. Now, if there's only 1 blue beetle left, guess what? That blue beetle is not going to be able to have as many children as, you know, the amount of red beetles. So now, after reproduction, after, you know, 1 cycle, we have 10 red beetles and 2 blue beetles. Suddenly, the population is that red is a more popular color. And you might say, well, why is red a more popular color? Is it because the red beetles blend in more? Is that, you know, they've got a better chance of surviving? No, it's because of a random chance event. Just randomly this happened. Because of this random event, you know, that's how you end up with it. Like if you look at the extinction of the dinosaurs because of a meteor, it's like that's a completely random thing. There's no way that you could adapt to meteorite strikes. Like you can't adapt to being to that. So it's just a random event, wipes out a huge chunk of the dinosaurs, mammals take over, you know? And then that's how we get to where we are now. So genetic drift is just, you know, sometimes random shit happens. So yeah. Now this website here is a website that's it's called Genie, and it talks about how different kinds of evolutionary things. So what happens is that you've got each of these dots here, right? Each of these dots represents a different gene, a different organisms in the same species. So maybe these are all birds. You know what? Actually, let's go with beetles. Maybe these are all beetles. Looks like we've got a lot of pink beetles, got a couple of blue beetles, we've got a couple of green beetles, so on and so forth. We're going to set the mutation rate to 0. So that means that if you're a pink beetle, then you're going to have a pink beetle child. If you're a red beetle, you're going to have a red beetle child. If you go start, what we should see is, and this, by the way, is different generations. So we've already gone through 20 generations. We've already gone through 20. So one beetle has had children, another beetle has had children, and already from the start, well, you know, already from the start, we seem to have a lot less different colors. You know what? Let's actually do this. Let's start again. I don't like yellow. I don't like red either. Let's go blue. Yeah, why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a screenshot of this. Now you guys can't see this screenshot because it's I don't think you can, because so I've done a quick screenshot here. Someone in chat said something, I can't see it. What am I doing here? So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot, and I'm actually going to quickly chuck that screenshot here. Let me see if this works. Nope, that would be too easy. I'm actually going to put it then in the I'm actually going to put it in the lesson then. You guys can't see this because you're probably still on the other slide because, you know, you're still looking at the Google Classroom. But yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. So here we go, and I'm going to share this so that you guys can see it really quickly. Here's the starting grid. Now, what I want you guys to do, we're going to start with 0 mutation. So what I want you guys to do is look at the colors that are here. We've got pink, we've got blue, we've got orange, we've got dark blue, we've got a green, light blue too. I'd like you guys, maybe, I want you guys to make a bet. So I want you guys to, you know, take a guess in chat. I'd like you to guess which color do you think is going to win? Which color do you think is going to be the most, after a couple of generations, which color do you think is going to be the most popular? I want to see some guesses in chat. I want to see what you guys think. And I'm going to open up. I'm going to go back to the lesson once I find it. Back to the page once I find it. What do you guys think? Come on, hit me in chat. Which one's going to be the most popular? I want to see some guesses here. All right, I've got red. We've got purple from Tina, red from Alethea. Yeah, red, pink. I'm going to take that as the same thing. Where is it here? Is there? Where? Hold on. Wait a sec. Wait a sec. Where's Tina? Tina, where is the purple? Exactly. Okay, so Lena is going yellow or dark blue. She's going for the random dark horse here. Pink plus blue equals purple. Now, here's the thing, is like there's not going to be any new colors, right? Because there's actually no mutation. There's actually 0 chance of there being a new color formed. So that means it has to be one of these colors. Any other guesses? Is anyone getting? So we've got red. Who's guessing blue? Is anyone guessing blue? Tina's guessing blue. Matt, what do you think? Which color do you think? Take a guess in chat, because I want to see your guesses in chat, because after I started, I can't, you know, stop it. Or anyone else, really. Light blue. Okay, I reckon. Oh, light blue. Okay, let's have a look. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start simulation. So each of these is going to have a child. So this blue one here and this red one, they're going to have a child. This blue one and this red one are going to have a child. Let's see what happens. And we're going to stop after about 10 generations. Look at that. So already, like, because all these, looks like over here we've got a big family of red. Oops. Ignore that. We've got a big family of reds here. We've got another big family of blues over here. And then we've got a couple of yellows down the bottom. So these are maybe, this is a different family here. So I think it was like, was it Kim that said yellow? And I was like, dismissed her straight away. Well, yeah, it looks like maybe yellow. There is going to be some families of yellow. Do you see the boot? Looks like Italy. It does look a little bit like Italy. That's true. You've got a little bit of Italy going on there in the bottom right here. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's see how this pans out. Okay. All right. That's been about 40 generations. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gents, in humans, 3 generations is about 100 years. So if these are beetles, this could be like maybe 100 years worth of beetles already. But let's grab a look here. We've lost all the purple. We've only got red, pink, and we've also lost the light blue. We've only got sort of the dark blue here, and we've got orange as well. Let's keep seeing how this goes. Oh no, looks like all of the yellow has gone out of the, looks like all of the yellow has disappeared. So we can also see, by the way, number of alleles of each generation. You can sort of see that we started off with a lot of different colors, a lot of different variations of beetles, like blues, yellows, purples, green beetles, and now I've only got 2 types of beetles, no, 3 types of beetles: red, pink, and blue. You can also see all the frequency, so you can see watch as blue's going back up, red's going down, pink is losing out as well. Keep going. We'll see if one of these takes over. Pink's hanging on. Pink is still hanging on there, and now pink is gone. There is no more pink, and because there's no mutation, right, there is no new pink that can form. So that means the rest of this is just going to be, maybe we've just got these 2 beetles, either they're red beetles or they're blue beetles, and so that's going to keep going. It looks like red is going to maybe take over, more and more red. And this could take a very, very long time. So I'm not going to run this for too long, but I'm going to run it for a little bit longer. Oh, look at blue's kind of taking over now. And there might be, this also might be what we would call a stable equilibrium. Like it might be stable here. There may be just, none of them can actually win. None of them can take over. I'd say that, looks like blue's going to probably win. I don't know. I have no idea here. Smurf takeover. I don't. Oh. See, looks like, I reckon that's probably. I think this is probably not going to be. Oh, yeah. I don't think it's going to be. I reckon that's pretty stable. I actually don't think that it's going to change. So I'm going to say, if you said red or blue, then I would say that you probably. I'm going to give you the right answer here. Oh, it looks like red almost took over. But yeah, I reckon that's pretty stable. Okay. So yeah, and that would be the thing, is like, this is genetic drift. The idea of genetic drift is that there is no, I'm going to pause it here because we've already gone through 580 generations. So yeah, you don't want to play this thing forever, otherwise it'll be going on. Keep it going. But yeah, you don't want to keep this thing going on forever because it's just going to it's just going to go on for a very, very long time. Maybe eventually one of them will take over the other one, and then it needs to get past like a certain threshold, and then it will be just like, yeah. But what I want to do now is I want to show you guys something a little bit different. What we're going to do now is we're going to reset this. So yeah, no winners here, but what we're going to do is we're going to reset this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys, we're going to do this example here. So let's just say we're going to run this for a little bit. Let's run this for about 20 generations. So we're going to stop here. Now, let's just say with this situation here, let's say something happens, right? Let's say that a river forms, right? And the river stops this section of the organisms from interacting with the rest of them. And let's just say maybe another river forms or another mountain forms over here. So then this is going to stop these animals or organisms interacting with the bulk of them. So like maybe this is like its own little island here. So let's see what's going to happen now if I run this. Make a prediction. So have a think about it. What do you think is going to happen in this corner? What do you think is going to happen in this corner? Remember, these are like islands. What's going to happen in these islands? Have a think about it. So we're going to start. Oh, someone's actually made a guess in chat. Thank you. I really appreciate that because you can show me what you guys are thinking. Blue. Blue where though, Tina? In the middle, top left, or the bottom right? Where is it going to be blue, do you think? Everywhere. That is actually possible. There's blue here. There's blue here. Oopsies. There's blue here. There's blue here, and there's blue here. So it could be just blue everywhere, right? You know, there's nothing saying that it can't be. So we're going to run this. And it looks like pretty much very quickly. By the way, let me pause this. God damn it. Why can't I pause it? What am I doing wrong here? I have no idea what I've done here. I can actually pause it. But it looks here very clearly here that, oh, I don't know why that's happening. It should be there. It looks very clearly here that, here we go. I can't even pause it. Why? So we've got because these are isolated locations here, right? Only the dark blues can breed here, only the dark blues can breed here, and only the light blues can breed here. So you actually have what we would call divergent evolution. I can't actually pause it, which is really annoying, so I'm going to have to refresh this after a while. But yeah, this is what we would refer to, so this is divergent evolution, and that's kind of an interesting take on it. So then the last thing to do, let me just refresh this, is to muck around with the mutation rate. So you can muck around with the mutation rate. If you make the mutation rate 1, that's the maximum amount of mutations, right? I want you guys to watch one particular corner. Maybe just watch this blue one in the top right-hand corner. Watch what happens to it. Every generation, it mutates and makes a brand new color. So you're never going to see, you're never going to see one thing take over because the mutation rate's so high. Even if you turn the mutation rate down to 0.1, so every 10 dots is going to mutate, you still probably won't see a particular color win, because there's going to be new mutations all the time. Where it does start to work is if you drop that mutation rate really low. So I like about 0.05. So or maybe we'll go even lower, 0.05. So every 20th dot. And I'm actually going to cut off a corner like I did last time. I'm going to cut off this corner like I did last time as well. Maybe I'm going to make this, I might make this a little bit bigger. And let's watch what happens when we've got a mutation rate. So if I let this run for a bit, it will take a little while, but it will sort of calm down. It looks like purple seems to be taking over the bottom down here. But every so often, right? Did you see that? Let me see if I can. So you just got, in this bottom corner, you've got purple, yellow, and yellow. Stop. See how that random red dot appeared? That's a random mutation. So random mutation of red just appeared down here. And that's because it's got a chance that it will mutate. Now there is a chance that that red dot will have red children, and then they'll have red children. But it is very unlikely that that will happen. And see, it's gone straight away. Ooh, green. Ooh, stop. Oh my God, I sound like an idiot. Grab a look at this. First, the green randomly mutated, right? And then it had green children. So, yeah. So, yeah. It has green children, and so therefore those green children go on and so forth. And so then you can sort of and then maybe this green will take over. I actually think, and we've also got this blue mutation happening here. I actually don't think it'll take over. I think it'll just, maybe I was wrong, but you never know with these things. And so, why? So yeah, I'm just focusing on this bottom corner here. Green, which was a mutation, has now spread over this whole thing. And so if you let this go for a while, what'll happen is eventually you get some semi-stability. So you get a point where it's like almost all one color. But you know, you can see in the top right that it's almost all dark purple, but not quite. 0.05 might even still be too much of a mutation of a chance. So for anything to actually occur. So you might even, that even might be too high. You may even want to turn that down to 0.05. 0.005. So it's now very unlikely that a mutation is going to occur, but it's still possible. And because of that, what we do is we see that, but yeah, you can see there's still random mutations. You can see that this bottom left corner is going to be either purple or like magenta or maybe yellow. So these are, again, remember, these are just beetles. They're just pink beetles with pink beetles having pink children. Yellow beetles with yellow beetles having yellow children. They don't interact with these ones because they're separated by them. But yeah, these are red beetles plus purple beetles having some kind of child, either red or purple. But they can't interact with the other organisms. And if you watch over time, we should start to see, yep, there we go. This is now all purple. All of these children will have purple children. Every so often you see a random mutation pop up, but that mutation might spread, but you know, it's usually just going to be absolutely nothing. We can see here that we've got this one at the top is now red, and then this one in the middle is just sort of fighting just to see which one's going to sort of win out. And yeah, that would be pretty much, I'm going to pause it about, oh wait, I'm going to pause it now. So yeah, you've got these different things. And so this, and like I've spoken for a long time, longer than I want to on this topic, but this is what genetic drift is. This is random mutations. There is no pressure here. There is nothing in this, there's nothing that says, oh, it turns out on this island there are a lot of red flowers, so it makes sense to be red because you can blend in with the flowers. Or maybe this island has a lot of predators that are afraid of the color red. There is no, the idea that I want you guys to really understand here is there is no genetic, there is no, what am I looking for? There's no natural selection. There is no selection pressure saying if you're not red, you're going to die. There's no competition between different species, like the red and the pink have to survive, you know, which one can survive. This is just random chance. And what I find interesting that even with random chance, like, oh, randomly, it's just you're more likely to have a pink child if you're already pink. Even with random chance, you still get some forms of evolution. You still get divergent evolution. And this, animals in this bottom pink region and the animals in this top red region may evolve so much that they can't even interbreed. They turn into their own species. And so that's what this is. So I want you guys to have a play with this. What you're going to have to do for the assignment is you need to take a screenshot of this at the start, then then run it for about you know, maybe 500 generations, and then take a screenshot at the end. And sort of like you want to do corners like this as well, so that you can like get this type of different evolution. But you read the instructions that says it there.